Okay, in this talk, I'm going to cover the essay assignment for the autumn term. So I'm going to start, give a little bit of a summary of it, talk about the assessment criteria I'm going to use to mark it, briefly talk through some of the topics that are available for this essay, and suggest some structures that you might use to organize your essay. So key facts, 2,000 to 4,000 words. Shouldn't take you more than a week to write, I imagine. It's worth 10% of the overall mark for the module. So I'm going to mark it out of 100, scale it down to a mark between 0 and 10. Deadline's the end of week 17. The exact deadlines, to the second, are available in the the coursework description, the description of the essay, which is available on the course website. So it's on one of 20 topics. I'm going to explain about topics in a minute. And the essay should describe how the hardware, software, and network protocols are brought together to deliver an internet scale application. So these topics are internet scale applications, and I'm expecting you to explain how they actually work. Don't spend lots of time describing the services provided by the internet scale application. So I don't care that Gmail lets you send an email. What matters is how Gmail is actually built and what's the hardware and technology behind the scenes that's making it actually work. So it's all about the technology, protocols, architecture that you use to deliver the services. It's not an essay on the services themselves. Okay? And I'm expecting you to use diagrams. These lecture series is full of diagrams. I'm expecting you to include some in your essays. So there's 20 topics available for the essay. Each person is going to write an essay on a different topic, and I'll explain how they're assigned in a second. They're the same topics as the class presentations. So also in the spring term, in the first few weeks of the spring term, you're going to give a short presentation on your topic to the rest of the class, and that's the same topic that you're going to write the essay on. And you have to write your essay on the topic that's assigned to you. You've got no choice about changing topics, something like that. Once you've got your topic, that's going to be your topic for the class presentation and for the essay. So the topics will be assigned in the following way. So there's going to be a multiple choice quiz in the week 11 seminar. So the seminar in the last week of the autumn term, I'm going to have a quiz on all of the lecture material for the first term. I'm going to mark the quiz in class, and the student who comes first in that quiz will have first choice of topic. The student who comes second will have second choice of topic, and so on all the way down. And if you don't show up to the seminar, don't participate in the quiz, then you're going to have your essay topic assigned at random. If by chance two people get the same mark and want the same topic, then we'll use scissors, paper, stone to decide between them. So to submit this, there'll be a Turnitin link in the essay section of the course website. The exact deadline will be described in the essay description on the course website. It has to be a Word version, not PDF, not an image file, because I'm going to run it through Turnitin. Turnitin uses Word. Nothing else is acceptable apart from a Word version. I'm very unlikely to give extensions to coursework. I discussed all this in a mini project, but I'm going to revisit it now just in case. So what the university has is a deferral of assessment procedure. So if you have serious personal problems, if you're sick, if a family member is sick, if a family member dies, something like that, then the university fully accepts that that's going to interfere with, that's out of your control, and that's potentially going to interfere with your work. So with the deferral of assessment, you fill in the form, you provide some documentary evidence, and then if your deferral of assessment application is successful, then you get extra time to complete the coursework or retake the exam without the mark penalty. So what the university prefers is that if you have serious problems, that you go through this deferral assessment and put it through the official channels. And I'm more than happy to help and support you go through the official channels and get your deferral of assessment if you're eligible. On the other hand, if you just give me some kind of weak, half-formulated excuse, I stubbed my toe last Tuesday and that interfered with my ability to concentrate and I couldn't get into uni that day or something like that, then I'll probably ignore your request. Under some very specific circumstances, I might give you a couple of extra days. But if you are running into problems, you must contact me before the deadline. And if I haven't given you permission for late submission, The marks available for your essay will halve every 24 hours after the deadline and reach 0 after 1 week. This is my big-hearted piece of generosity here. The university itself would just, give you 0, but I'm giving you half marks every 24 hours. But don't go this route, right? You've got the Christmas holidays, you've got 6 weeks of the spring term to write your essay in. You've already done some of the work for your class presentation. Just write it, submit it, get it done, don't mess about, don't come to me with weak excuses just before the deadline because I won't give you an extension. Okay. So as I'm sure you're aware, plagiarism is a serious academic offence. Your essays will be put through Turnitin. I will be looking at Turnitin reports. If there's a high Turnitin value and it's obvious you've just copied your essay from another source, then I'm going to give you severe mark penalties and I may well report you for plagiarism. There's more information here, should be obvious. Don't copy your essay off the internet, you'll probably be caught. It's fairly obvious looking through a copied essay that it has been copied or downloaded because I know something about your writing style from your other assignments. So just don't do it. More than happy to give you what's called formative feedback on your drafts. So if you'd like to know, how well your essay's doing, what mark it's likely to get, and all that kind of stuff, do feel free to email a draft to me, but not 1 day before the deadline. Give me a couple of days to give you feedback. Maybe a week before I can give you sensible feedback. 1 day before I can't, and I won't. So to mark the essay, I'm going to read it, obviously, and mark it according to the assessment criteria, which are included in the project description. So if you want a good mark, look at the assessment criteria, look at your essay, and see if there's ways in which you can improve your essay to get a higher mark. So I'll go through the assessment criteria briefly now. So as I said, look at it's in the essay description on the course website, and I'll go through each of the bits now. So we've got contents. I'm expecting your essay to clearly describe how hardware, software, and network protocols are brought together to deliver an internet scale application. This is what your essay should contain. That's what those 50 marks are for. Those 50 marks are not for describing the services. Description of Google should cover the Google file system, Bigtable, and Chubby. It should not be covering Gmail, G Drive, and so on and so forth, or search, right? It's about the back-end technology, not the services that use the back-end and that the user interacts with. Then there's 10 marks for the security, privacy, and legal issues. These will vary with different internet scale applications, but there's some of them are relevant to each one, and I'll take that into account in the marking criteria anyway. If there's not so many, then you won't be penalised for that. It's not your fault. Writing quality, it's not a class on English, right? It's a class on internet scale applications. So I'm not expecting necessarily to have perfect spelling or grammar. I am, however, expecting you to run it through the word spell checker and run it through the word grammar checker and to make a reasonable effort to make it readable, okay? And that's what those 7.5 marks are for. Length, minimum 2,000 words. Organisation, lay it out sensibly, not one big paragraph, come on. Introduction, central sections, conclusion, references. I'm expecting one relevant diagram. This diagram has to be correctly referenced if it comes off the web. If it's your own diagram, that's fine. Better if you make that clear because sometimes it's not clear. But if it's pasted in from the web, make sure it has a correct reference, and I'll explain how you do that. Sources, I'm expecting you to draw on several sources, not just Wikipedia. And higher marks will be given to essays referencing a range of high-quality sources. Use the Harvard style for referencing. And, I'll say a little bit about that. So, so Harvard method, just look it up. It's easy to use. In text, you have like brackets 2003, and the bibliography, there's different formats for journals and books and so on. I've given you a couple of links here. Just follow the instructions. You can't go wrong. It's very easy to do, and just do it. So this is figure referencing. Firstly, I'd like to see figure 3, right? Figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. This is what books do, what journals do, what everyone does, and please do it in your essays, okay? So figure 3, what number figure is it? Description of the figure, in this case, a cat. This is from the internet, so I'm giving a reference for the figure. So this can be a Harvard-style reference for the figure, that's fine. Or you can do like footnotes. So you can add like a footnote here, and there's like source of the figure there. So this I find easier personally than putting it in the bibliography, which is a bit fiddly. And I'm absolutely fine if you do it this way, but you have to do it this way or this way. If you just don't have anything and it's just like bunged in from the internet, you'll get no marks for it. So I said, yeah, English is not your first language. I understand that. There's also workshops. If you want to improve or get support with your academic writing and language, then there's workshops available for that. Okay. So I've explained that you're going to have a competitive quiz in the seminar, and the winner will get first choice of topic, and so on and so forth. So what I've done is I've set 20 topics, 20 internet scale applications, and each person will write an essay on their assigned internet scale application. Okay? So I'm just going to briefly go through these topics, give you a little bit of a clue about what they're about. So I've tried to help you here. So with most of the topics where the information isn't so readily available, or it's not obvious where you could find it, I've given you a paper to get you started, or a link to get you started, or some kind of idea. So this is like a botnet, as I talked about in the security lecture. Botnet's like a collection of computers that have been compromised and are controlled by an attacker, used for spam, so on and so forth. And there's a paper on that botnet, and these botnets typically being analyzed by security professionals to understand how they work, so that you can get some quite detailed information about them. So, with a botnet, I'm expecting you to describe how the machines have been infected and how are they controlled. Is it like, internet relay service or whatever? What it's used for, spam, Bitcoin mining, denial of service, and how it can be shut down. As I said, that's the analysis of security professionals. So that kind of stuff for the botnets. Now, Boink and SETI at home are kind of closely related distributed computing platforms. The people contribute their computing time to solve scientific problems. So they kind of, both of them, they distribute computing jobs to the users. They solve the scientific problem, or analyze the data, and send the result back to the central server. So there's a link for you on Boink and SETI at home. They're kind of, I think this might be an earlier version of Boink, I'm not quite sure. But describe the architecture, technology, how tasks are sent and received, and so on. Then we've got Cord, Pastry, and Nutella. These are all peer-to-peer networks. So I've given you a lecture on Freenet and BitTorrent. And you could sort of take some of the ideas from that lecture and apply them to these topics. So, again, these are distributed hash tables storing key value pairs across the network of computers. So architecture and operation, unique features, strengths and weaknesses, so on. I'm going to go in more detail about XA structures in the next section. This is just a quick overview of the topics. So Cord and Pastry, peer-to-peer networks, Nutella, peer-to-peer network, which has had several different versions. Then we've got commercial scale websites. So we've got Facebook, Amazon, eBay, and Wikipedia fall into this category because they're sort of more commercial, well, sort of selling stuff oriented, I guess, rather than search oriented. And here, please don't describe the services that you can buy slippers on Amazon and all this kind of stuff. What I care about is the technology, architecture, and infrastructure, right? So there's a little bit of information there. Facebook, another sort of teardown of the software behind Facebook, and I think similar things for Wikipedia and eBay. Google's a little bit of a special case because they've got some really nice back-end, big-scale sort of software and hardware architectures which you can describe, such as Google File System, Bigtable, and Chubby. Coursebook has some nice material on Google. Then we've got Node, Next, and Ethereum. These are all cryptocurrencies. So in the lecture next term, I describe how Bitcoin works, and these kind of currencies that came after Bitcoin sort of taking up from the point where Bitcoin left off. So you could explain differences of Bitcoin, how currency is issued, and all this kind of stuff. Then we have Skype, sort of voice over IP stuff. Akami I described briefly in the lecture on commercial websites. And then we've got this worldwide LHC computing grid, which is for a sort of big-scale way of distributing large amounts of data from the Large Hadron Collider, I think. Yep. And then Tor, I briefly mentioned this in the lecture on privacy. So how does this, it's like a peer-to-peer network for anonymous communication online. How does it work? What its security weaknesses, stuff on the Russians trying to get someone to crack it and all this kind of stuff. I think there's been some recent weaknesses that they've tried to address in Tor. eBay, same as Amazon, and Wikipedia, same as Amazon, and high-frequency trading system. These are financial stock trading systems that are working on a millisecond timescale, buying and selling shares, and there's like a large-scale system interpretation of them there, so you can have a little look at that. Now, I'm fairly confident that you can write a good essay on each of these topics and that there's enough information. But if you're struggling to find like a number of different sources or enough information about these organizations, then come and see me. It should be obvious when you prepare for the class presentation, and come and see me if you think, well, I can't write an essay on this, I can't find the information I need, and we can maybe sort out another topic. Okay, so just to perhaps labour the point, but you can always skip this point in the talk if you like. What I'm now going to do is go through each of the types of topic and give you a rough idea about how you could write a good essay about it. Now, if you're an essay genius, some kind of whiz-kid essay writer, I'm sure you've got your own idea about how to write good essays, but these structures would be a good starting point because it'll enable you to get a good mark because they cover all the stuff about organisation, all the point about contents and all the rest of it. So I recommend you have a little look about the structure that's relevant to the essay you've got to write and maybe adapt it rather than just starting from scratch to make sure that you maximise your chances of writing a good essay. So, in general, it's a course about how you can put together hardware and software and build something on a massive scale that can service millions of users. So you could think about it this way. You could think, well, what if someone gave you £100 million and they said, I'd like a copy of Google, please. So what would be the software and the hardware you'd have to copy, and how would you put it all together to build a copy of Google or Amazon and so on? What hardware, what would you have to do to implement it, what software, architectures, file systems, databases and so on, what kind of caching, what security, privacy and legal issues would you face? So your essay could almost be thought of as a sort of a sketch of how someone could solve this problem. So let's suppose writing an essay on Google. Let's start with, we could start with a bit of history, some of the services, search, email storage, Larry Page in his garage, statistics and numbers of users and so on and so forth. Then we go into the meat and potatoes, like the Google file system, Bigtable, Chubby, these sort of beautiful big scale systems they built. A few diagrams of those, there's plenty of diagrams around. Then you could go into information about Google's server farms, commodity hardware they pioneered, lots of cheap hardware that fails, but then the software knows that it fails and can balance the data across lots of different potentially failing machines. There must be a few pictures out there. Have there been major security attacks on Google? Of course there have, but can you find any information about that? And what countermeasures they take? And there's been, Google's been hammered by the EU a little bit for its right to privacy and all this kind of stuff. So you could mention some of that here. Short summary, references to Harvard format. And any of the other big websites will have a similar large-scale systems they're using to operate, and so take a similar approach with them. It's an essay on a peer-to-peer network. So again, you have the introduction, who designed it, is there a nice paper setting out the first design, what versions have there been in the protocols, software, hardware, and so on, of the protocol, What features does it support, is there search, is it just storing, is it distributed hash table, whatever. Some of these are a bit more researchy and some of them are actually concretely implemented. So Freenet's an implementation, whereas maybe, I'm not sure, Tapestry or Cord are a little bit more academic. How many people use them, how much traffic and so on. And then you can go into some of the details that I sketched out very briefly in my lecture on Freenet and BitTorrent. You could explain how new users are added, how files are named, how files are added, how users can search for files, and their fault tolerance and reliability. So describe, how you can add a file, how the protocol actually works, with some pictures. And then performance, what performance measures? I gave an example. I think I gave you a paper for Freenet describing some performance measures of it. Performance is very important in peer-to-peer networks, so put some stuff on in that, some performance issues, bottlenecks, so on. I also described some of these security, privacy, legal issues in the lecture on peer-to-peer networks, like content poisoning, government interference, the effectiveness of the privacy, the security weaknesses. And its conclusion can briefly summarize the essay, references Harvard as usual. So there's a lecture you can watch on Bitcoin from this, I can't remember which week it's in, but you can find it in the course website. And you can use that as a sort of starting point for your essay on a cryptocurrency because it describes how Bitcoin works, and you might want to take a similar approach to describe how one of these other cryptocurrencies work. So again, you can build a history, who designed it, what problems it's trying to solve. So I talk about the double spending problem and general features that currency must have, like scarcity of some kind, this kind of stuff. You could also compare the cryptocurrency that you're describing with other cryptocurrencies, what the differences and similarities. Does it have an exchange rate with other kinds, like with gold or with dollars or whatever? Are there working implementations, or is it just like some kind of big idea? And then you can go into the sort of stuff that I talked about with Bitcoin, like how does it work, how are transactions recorded and verified, how's double spending problem avoided, how's new currency issued, what's the client software do, and so on. So if you're not sure what that means, look at my Bitcoin lecture. I explain how the blockchain works, how transactions work, all of that. And so Next or Node or Ethereum will have a similar approach. Well, different, but you can describe them in a similar way. And then there's the hardware. Some Bitcoin has all this specialized currency mining software, hardware rather. Is that used in these other cryptocurrencies? I've absolutely no idea. And what are the security, privacy, legal issues? Has anyone stolen lots of the currency? Is it really anonymous, the transactions online? Can people fake currency? How would they do this? How could people compromise the network? Have governments try to shut it down? All these kind of stuff. And a botnet. There's a little bit of history here, right? When was it first detected? By whom? What was it used for? Was it distributed on our service? Bitcoin mining, credit card fraud, spam, whatever. Has it launched some big attacks? Been used to launch big attacks? And then you've got all this sort of interesting stuff about infection mechanisms. So how is computers added to the network? Is it phishing? Is it buffer overflows? Whatever. How is the network controlled? Is it like some internet relay chat? Is it like contacting a HTTP server, something like that? What software is running on these machines? How does it hide itself from the user? How can the user switch it off easily? What ports is it using, and so on and so forth? And some nice diagrams, please. And then with botnets, you can talk about countermeasures, right? How is it detected? Can it be shut down? How can users be protected? Has any legal action been taken against it? So I talk about, people controlling these networks to do various kinds of things. Have these people been caught and prosecuted? And then we got BOINC, the Large Hadron Collider network, SETI at home. So a little bit of history, how many users, why, where's the motivation? Well, they've got these big scientific problems they're trying to solve with lots of data, and it's cheaper if they can get other people to contribute CPU time to crunch that data. What scientific tasks have been solved? Have they found aliens on SETI at home, for example? Are the users rewarded? And then the software, so it's got a whole sort of communication mechanism for sending out tasks and the appropriate libraries for analyzing those tasks. How's the job distributed? How are the results sent back? Is there any verification process? Some screenshots maybe of the client software. And how many flops does this system carry out, right? Is there like a performance impact on the user's computers? And what about the servers themselves? It's got a centralized server. Is this some kind of big iron thing, or lots of servers, or they've got multiple servers? Do we know anything about that? What would happen if you hacked BOINC? Could you hack all the users as well? Have there been any big security compromises of distributed computing systems? Maybe mention a little bit about that. Okay, so just to wrap it up. So the most important thing you should look at before doing any work on your essay or any of your assignments is to find the appropriate description of the coursework on the course website, which has the exact dates, full description of the task, and full description of the assessment criteria. We'll go through this in a seminar, and you have a chance to ask questions as well. So this essay has been all about the essay assignment and how we're going to use the quiz results to assign topics. Now these topics are going to be the same topics as the class presentation, and it's the class presentation I'm going to cover next.